Hey, what's up? My name is Daniela and welcome to a new video. So today I'm doing my favorite video there is, and that is an unhaul. So recently I reorganized my whole bookshelf and I also filmed it. So if you haven't seen it, I will link the video over there and also in the description. And during that process I got rid of some books. I'm slowly preparing to move, hopefully in the next couple of months. And during this round I mostly got rid of books I read and I even liked most of them, but there are books that I don't see myself rereading anytime soon or ever. And there are also some books I DNF'd. And there might be some more that I might be getting rid of soon from my TBR pile, but I want to give a chance to all of the books that are currently on my TBR. And I also made a video about all of the books on my physical TBR, so you can check that out as well. But yeah, once I read those books, I might be getting rid of some more before I actually move. So first I'm going to talk about the 3 books on this pile that I DNF'd. So the first of them is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. So Robin Hobb has been on my radar for a long time. I really wanted to try her books. And last year there was a read-along of the series and the subsequent series hosted by the Ketchup Book Club, and I bought this book, but I didn't read it until this year. This is adult fantasy, and in this book we follow Fitz, who is a bastard of a king who doesn't want him, so he is growing up in the stables, and then the king makes him his assassin, apparently, because I didn't actually get that far. So I started this book and it was incredibly slow. I almost immediately knew that I wasn't gonna click with the writing style. There were also some history segments that I wasn't interested in. The world building wasn't catching my attention. I don't usually like child's protagonists, but I was thinking that maybe the story would grip me, but it really didn't. And another thing I didn't like about it is that it was very grim. Like, everyone seemed to be miserable, and from what I heard, like, this would continue. So a lot of the characters would be miserable and bad things would keep happening to them, and that's just really a style of books I don't like. I was struggling through the first part of this book for weeks. I think I made it to around page 90, and then I came to the realization that I really need to DNF it because I just couldn't do it anymore. I also know that a lot of people say that the second series in this world, the Ship of Magic series, is much better than this. I guess more plot driven. But when it comes to multiple series world, like this one, I really like to start at the very beginning, and also like the ship theme doesn't really intrigue me, and usually I like character-driven stories. These characters just weren't that interesting to me. So yeah, this might be me saying goodbye to Robin Hobb in general, because the writing style just didn't work for me. Next on the DNF list we have Cinder by Marissa Mayer. So this is young adult sci-fi about a cyborg, and yeah, also something I've been meaning to read for a long time. It's a booktube darling. A lot of people seem to like it, although by now a lot of people have it more like a nostalgia book. Also, there's some pandemic happening in this book, so maybe this wasn't the best time to try to read it, but I started it twice and I couldn't get past the first few chapters. Also, I think the setting is Asian inspired, and if I was to read a book like that, I would prefer it to be from an Asian person. So yeah, I didn't particularly like the beginning, and fairy tales aren't something I especially seek out, so I think this book just can go to another reader. Another book I DNF'd, and this one I'm the most disappointed about because I thought I was really going to love it, but I didn't. And that's Normal People by Sally Rooney. This is literary fiction about 2 teenagers. One is popular and the other one isn't, and they are dating in secret, and then it's apparently about them not being able to stay apart for that long, which is their paths crossing and they are like unhealthy, dependent on each other, something like that. I didn't make it very far. First thing I didn't like is the absence of quotation marks. It's a pet peeve of mine, but I would overlook it if I actually like this book, but I really didn't. So usually I'm here for pretentious characters, but these two were way too unlikable. The atmosphere was absolutely bleak. I didn't care about what's going to happen, but there were some really heavy things hinted at, and I just had zero interest in reading about some bad things happening to characters I didn't like and didn't care about. So yeah, it was really hard to read even the first bit, so eventually I just had to DNF it because yeah, this is probably one of the biggest disappointment of this year for me, unfortunately. Now for the books I actually finished. So the first one is Dreadless by Matt Haig. This is an adult contemporary with paranormal aspects because it's about a family of vampires who is trying to live a normal life in a village in Britain. But one day the daughter is attacked by a boy, and then the kids find out that they are actually a family of vampires. Her uncle, who is a practicing vampire, is called to deal with the situation, and drama ensues. It's a lot about relationships in the family, how they relate to being a vampire, and about living a double life and not being happy with the lifestyle they are living because like it's basically killing them slowly, but also they don't want to go to, you know, killing people. So yeah, they're just trying to figure out how to deal with the situation. This was just okay for me. The characters didn't grow on me very much, and I didn't care about the story super much. It wasn't a bad book, but when it came to the vampire element, I was more interested in the psychological aspects of it, like the desire and dealing with it, rather than the kind of graphic details. And there were some, so I know it's kind of expected that there is going to be some gore when it's a book about vampires, but yeah, that's the thing I didn't really like. I was actually on the brink of DNFing this one too, but then I kind of pushed through and gave it 3 stars. But yeah, it can definitely leave my collection. Then I have The Humans by Matt Haig, which I liked more, but I'm still getting rid of it. So this is a sci-fi about alien who comes to Earth, and he is pretending to be human because basically a human scientist made some breakthrough, and this alien civilization is trying to erase all evidence of that because they think that we are not ready to have that knowledge and evolve. This book was really funny at the beginning, as the alien kind of comments on humans and nothing really makes sense to him, and yeah, there were some really funny observations. Then it got a bit horrifying for a bit, but then also sad and heartwarming. So yeah, my feelings about this one were all over the place, but I ended up really enjoying it and I gave it 4 stars. But I don't really think I will be rereading it very soon, so for now I'm getting rid of it. Next I have The Last Anniversary by Liane Moriarty. So Liane Moriarty is one of my favorite authors, but her books are mostly one-time read for me, I guess. So this is an adult contemporary, and it's about 2 sisters who found an abandoned baby one day and they raised it as their own, and it's kind of a mystery of what happened. They live on this really small secluded island where only their family lives, and they basically made it a business, so it's a tourist attraction that people go there and they see the house where the baby was abandoned and everything. And then we follow a woman named Sophie who dated a member of this family, and then one of the sisters die and Sophie inherits a house on the island, which is a big surprise for everyone in the family and Sophie herself. And then we kind of follow the mystery, but as with most Liane Moriarty books, it's mostly about the characters and their relationships. So I wouldn't go into this expecting a standard thriller or a mystery. It's more like a contemporary with a mystery element, and I really enjoyed this. The setting was really beautiful. The family members were really fun to read about. I might in theory reread this book sometime in the future, but definitely not in the near future. So yeah, I don't need to hold on to it for now. Then I have another book that was kind of disappointing, which is also a bit ridiculous because I still gave it 4 stars. But I was just really expecting to give it 5 stars, and that's Beach Read by Emily Henry. So this is one of my most anticipated releases of last year, I guess, and it's an adult contemporary about 2 writers. They temporarily live next to each other and they each have a writer's block. She writes romances and he writes literary fiction, and they make a deal that they will try to read from each other's genre. And it's about that, but also about the woman's father passing away and the issues that the family had. And then there are some like really random little plot lines or like stories of people that the guy was researching originally for his book that were kind of traumatic, but like they didn't have anything to do with the main plot. So I found that a bit confusing, and I just thought that we would get to see more of their deal, but that part was quite disappointing. I like the characters fine, but I just didn't love it, so I don't think I will be rereading it. Then I have One True Loss by Taylor Jenkins Reid, who is also one of my favorite authors. So this is an adult contemporary about a woman whose husband goes missing, and he's considered dead because like he was in an accident in a helicopter or something and he was never found. She thinks she's a widow, and after some time she starts dating this other man, and then her husband comes back. So that's a problem. As I expected, this book was an emotional ride, and the way it was handled, I really liked it. I thought it was pretty realistic, although like who can say like who's been in this situation. We really got to see kind of in detail what kind of relationships she had both with her husband and her new man, who was her fiance by the time her husband came back, and the characters were really well fleshed out. There were some flashbacks to them meeting in high school and then what their relationship was like until the husband disappeared. So we really were able to kind of piece together the nature of their relationship, and I honestly had no clue what's going to happen, but the way it was handled and the way it wrapped up was really satisfying for me. So I really enjoyed this one, but I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't like one of my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I'm not sure I would be willing to put myself through it again. Maybe one day, but for now it can definitely go. I'm also getting rid of How Do You Like Me Now by Hollyborn. This is again an adult contemporary about a woman who wrote a self-help book some years ago, but now she's kind of stuck in her career. She has a writer's block, and she's also pretending a lot on her social media because she's actually quite unhappy. She's in a relationship that turned toxic, and yeah, she's generally really stuck in life. I thought this book was going to be a fun time, and it was a really good book, but it was way more hard-hitting than I expected. It dealt with some heavy topics like self-harm, disordered eating, and the character just had really low self-esteem. And yeah, she basically lied to her followers and talked about them in a way that made me quite uncomfortable. The most intense part of this reading experience for me was reading about the decaying relationship and how she was still hesitant to leave, because I myself ended a long-term relationship last year. So in this sense, it was pretty timely and intense. But yeah, I don't think I will ever be reading this again. Then I have a checkbook on this list, which is kind of a rarity these days for me, but I do read them occasionally. And this is Tamartino Surveys D by Anna Musilova. So this is a young adult book, although the protagonist is 19, so on the older side of young adult, and it's about her meeting an older woman who's like my age, but she's more than 10 years older than our main character. And also our main character didn't get to her dream school, which is photography, so she went to law school. And this takes place in Prague, and I really loved the setting. I didn't go to law school, I studied linguistics, but the buildings were really close together, so I sometimes went to lunch there. So it was just talking about places I knew, so that was really nice. It's not really a romance because it has some sinister undertones from the beginning, hinting at the romance not being that great in the end. But I really appreciated this book. I thought it was pretty well written, and yeah, I just really appreciated that there's LGBTQ story in Czech literature, because we don't get many of them. But yeah, again, I want to give this book to another reader because I don't think I will be rereading it. Then I'm getting rid of a book that I didn't even read and I didn't even want it, but I got it for free with an order, but I'm not reading it. I just know. So this is the Czech edition of Where Did You Sleep Last Night by Lynn Crosby. This is basically like a fanfiction that was published, and it's about, I guess, some romance with Kurt Cobain, which I just find quite distasteful for it to be published. Like, it could have just been fanfiction, but why was it published? I don't really understand. I was a pretty big Nirvana fan when I was a teenager, but this just really isn't something I would like to read. Also, I just glimpsed at one page and just like was horrified right at the second. So yeah, I'm sending this far away. And finally, I'm getting rid of a series that is very well loved on BookTube, and I really enjoyed it as well, but yeah, I also had some issues with it and I'm not sure about rereading it. So I'm talking about The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. So we have The Raven Boys, The Dream Thieves, Blue Lily Blue, and The Raven King. I'm just gonna hold this because it's hard to hold 4 books. So I actually read the first book twice, because the first time I read it and I was quite confused and I wasn't sure what my thoughts were, and then I didn't continue with the series, and then I almost unhauled it. But then I decided to just read the series as quickly as possible. So I reread this first book and I continued with the next volumes pretty much immediately, and the second time around I enjoyed it much more, but it just wasn't fully for me. So there are some things I really loved about it, like the characters and their dynamics, and all of the different settings were really cool and atmospheric. But this is a young adult, well, kind of contemporary, kind of fantasy, and the fantasy elements weren't really for me. I didn't enjoy them that much, and also in most of the books there was some like thriller plotline, and although I quite like the characters that were connected with these plotlines, I also didn't quite enjoy those plotlines. So I would love to spend some more time with the characters, but the story itself wasn't fully for me. But I'm also continuing with this world, so I just bought Call Down the Hawk, which is about at least one of the characters from the series. I don't really know anything about it, and the second book in that series also was just released, or yeah, I think it's out now, which is called Mr. Impossible. So yeah, we'll see how I like that series, but I'm parting with the series for now. I actually wasn't sure about it at all, but I already listed these books for sale and this series sold immediately. So it's already paid for, so I actually have to send it to that person. So yeah, that made it easier for me to decide. So these are all the books I'm getting rid of this time. Let me know if you read any of these, and also let me know if you did an unhaul recently or if you're planning to do one, because I'm making these unhaul threads on Twitter, so I'm adding there all the unhauls, well, all the ones I actually see, because yeah, I can't really see everything, unfortunately. But yeah, check it out or let me know if you did an unhaul. But that's it for this video. Like it if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!